Hey, everybody, welcome. I think it's at exactly like 21 seconds, Hafiz, that we go live every time. So
Okay.
we can
We're
just,
consistent.
yeah, there we go. Welcome, everybody. We are here once again with Maple Syrup. It is the weekly show on a Wednesday about game design and the community and stuff and the hobby and the industry and all that kind of stuff. And this week we have a very special guest. Hafiz, can you introduce our lovely guest for everybody today?
Yeah, so this is
Hafiz, are
Eric,
you
who
there?
we met a couple of times through proto spiels, and we figured this would be a great opportunity to hear from an up-and-coming designer. So we're going to throw to Eric right now, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your origin story.
Absolutely. First, I want to say thanks to both of you guys for having me on here. This is my first board game podcast ever. This is like a monumental moment for me right now. So really appreciate you guys for sure. Um, yeah. So Hafiz was right. We met during some Protospiel events. We hit it off because I mean he's just such a tremendous fellow. Origin story for board games. Whew. So I'm 36 now. My origin story probably starts at age, I'd say 4.5. I think I played my first game of Risk just as I turned 5, and that was because of my father. So my father was a massive board gamer. He designed and created board games when he was young in the 70s and 80s and all that stuff. So he had us laying on the floor playing board games pretty much as soon as we were able to comprehend. Um, so I'd say in terms of board games, yeah, my origin story is laying on the floor with my father, getting taught the principles of wargaming very early, and just gaining that creativity through him because we would always make like house rules for different games. I grew up playing like Forbidden Bridge. I don't know if you guys remember that game from the '90s, and like Shark
No.
Attack and all these fun little floor games for kids and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say that is the humble beginning of how I got into board games. It was early age Risk with my father.
I was going to say that,
So it sounds like it runs through the family.
yeah.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
And I'm almost old enough to be your father. I just did the calculations. Like I would have been 17 when you were born. So that's really young. Don't marry when you're 17, or at least don't have kids when you're 17. You're not old enough. Um, so that's very cool. Eric, can you tell us a little bit about what got you into actually designing games? What was the itch that needed to be scratched?
Um, the itch that needed to be scratched. I don't know. I don't know if there was necessarily an itch. It's just this creative calling that I have, where ever since I was a kid, when I was young, if I would go to like a dollar store or something like that, when I saw pieces, anything small, intricate, tiny little things, I'd be like, what can I do with that? Even as a little kid, I'd be like, oh, look at these pebbles, look at these marbles. Like my brain would just register it as here's little things must turn into game. I don't really know how else to explain it.
If not game, why game shaped?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great way to
Well,
put it.
so if I ever see things that are in the same shape but in multiple different colors, my brain just goes. It's
Oh,
why
absolutely.
I love stationery stores because of that. Like I could sit in a stationery store, especially like a Japanese stationery store, like all day long
Mm.
and just like really like I don't know, feel the nice paper and write with the nice gel pens and design games in that space. As long as it wasn't my own stationery, because whenever I buy stationery, it doesn't really get used because I well look, like this is a stationery that my friend
It's too
made by
nice to
hand.
use.
It's
Yeah.
too
Yeah,
nice for me to use it. It was a
right.
gift. I don't know what I would put on this that would that would that would honor her work.
Right. Are
So
you
I keep
familiar
it
with a
close
store
to my
called
heart.
And that's
Ones?
a hot tip for anyone watching. Get really cheap or bad stationery because you won't feel bad using it. If you feel like I need to get a really nice notebook, I'll put all my IDs in there, you will never use it.
No.
Yeah.
Like this
But
BS
you
that
were
I
you were
got
talking
for
about
free from somewhere, I use this all the time because it's a
the
piece of crap.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then you were talking about the dollar store, also a very dangerous place for any kind of game designer because there's always so many cool things that you can stumble across when you go in there.
Right. I mean, dangerous or creative and awesome. Like it's hard. Like going to a dollar store and it's true. You're like, oh, I just want to buy, some snacks, and then you come out with 18 different prototyping pieces. So I get it. It's true.
Um,
And so, if designing is something that you've always been doing, have you always been making like little games? Has it been activities? Like, um, what led you where you are now? Because we met at a proto spiel, which is a big gaming community,
Yeah.
and something would have brought you to that place.
It was always just that niche to design games. And sometimes what it actually was a big thing for me was growing up in the 90s and playing video games. I often would play a lot of video games and then find an aspect of a video game and be like, I kind of want to do that in real life. So I would try and recreate them. So, as an example, one of my first biggest projects that I ever did, I was probably 11 or 12 when I did this. Are you guys familiar with the game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on Xbox?
of course,
Right?
Oh yeah.
KOTR.
Yeah, right. I literally just recreated that, like with my mom's typewriter, because I mean, obviously I had the computer at the time, but I used the typewriter. I recreated that physically. Like I redrew out the actual the character screen that has like your tracker for if you're going like good or bad. I cut out all individual little squares and drew pictures of like the pistols and the blasters, and I like put tape on the back so you could put them on your character sheet, and like rewrote the script for all the dialogue from the character, and I called it the dialogue manual. I tried to
Meat bag,
recreate.
meat bag, meat bag.
Yeah, right. And I was like, I want to play the Knights of the Old Republic, but on a board. So I'm like, I'm just going to try and make this game using my Star Wars action figures because I want to play it, but I also want to tell a story. So that was a big thing. I played a lot of video games, and the video games always ended up taking me back to the table instead, which is why even now, if I find that I have an hour of free time, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that I'm going to choose to play something on a tabletop over a video game because I guess, just get drawn back to it all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And then once I dove deeper in that and I started to get older, I'm like, well, now there's a lot more depth to this. So now I don't just want to try and recreate video game things in real life. I just want to make my own games, which snowballed, and to answer your question, Hafiz, right? Snowball, and then you turn into a game designer overnight.
Do you find that you pull a lot of things and ideas from video games in your own game design now?
Yes, it really just depends on the style of game that I'm making, or it depends on what sort of like flair I'm going for. Anytime that I'm designing anything that's like tabletop battle, like arena, or like, I don't want to say war based, but very like tactical on a grid, my brain can't help but go back to all the hours that I spent playing Final Fantasy Tactics, which was basically just a board game, Final Fantasy, right? So like there's a lot of things from games that I'll still draw that I loved, and then they'll give me inspiration to like bleed off into something else. What did I love so much about Diablo 2 back in the day? Well, let me take that aspect and turn it into something. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think my favorite video games pretty much are always like they could have been a board game. They
sure.
just have too many pieces and calculations to remember, right? So yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics, Advance Wars, Into the Breach,
Advance Wars.
any of like right?
Oh,
Any of the
love it.
the card based games that people play now, like Slay the Spire, or yeah, those games they are basically like really really advanced board games. So
Right. Exactly.
why not, right?
Yeah.
And I find a lot of modern like dice placement or card drafting games that are on the computer just scratch that itch anyways. So
Mhm.
it is neat to see how they inform one another, because I think the mechanics of like card drafting is just so understandable that why obfuscate it by making it this totally computerized version when, or well, it is computerized, but like hide it behind like computer stuff when you can say you're just playing a card drafting game on your computer, because it is just instantly like accessible to your brain. I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people,
Sure.
they just understand that cards, right, and dice. So
Right.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah. It also sounds
And
like
then
you're abstracting
no,
a
you
bit.
keep going.
Sorry, sorry. I think I'm delayed by like a half second because I keep interrupting you. So apologies. I'll throw it back.
It's okay. No, no, no. You go.
You mentioned something that was sounded really interesting, which is what you mentioned story. And that was something that you really enjoyed from the video game experience and you want to build in the tabletop experience. And you were mentioning drawing inspiration from games you played, recreating games that you've played. But it sounds like you've taken that next step beyond just, hey, they did this cool thing. I'm going to do this cool thing. It sounds like you're thinking behind why is this a cool thing and how can I capture that feeling when you're doing your games?
Yeah, I mean that's it, that is a good point. Like it's for me there's a definitive like narrative to everything that I sort of design. I'm not I don't think I could be the type of designer that says, "Hey, I'm just going to create like this abstract game that has piece A and piece B and then you just do C with it and that's it." Like anytime that I sit down to design, it could be a game about, rocks and sticks, but like I feel like I can't design the game if there isn't some sort of narrative spin on it or there isn't some sort of narrative theme behind it or a story. So I might take like a mechanic or something that I loved in a video game and thought, "Oh, I love that, XYZ equation. I'm going to turn that into a game." But what's the story there? That's my brain just does that. I can't really not design that way.
There's actually a game on Kickstarter right now about sticks.
Is there actually? No
Yeah,
way.
Battle Sticks.
Battle sticks.
Battle Sticks. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Their video is hilarious.
It's like when you go for a walk and you find this awesome stick. I still have a very awesome stick by my door that I found when I was walking one of the dogs like many years ago, and it is just the coolest stick I've ever found.
We all do, right? It seems like
Oh,
almost
yeah.
every dude has their Gandalf stick that they found and they keep.
I have a giant stick that I found when we took the kids camping. Not my kids, like I don't have kids, but students. We took them
Right.
for a March break camp, and it was like freezing, and so we had to find sticks for the kids to like trek through on the trail so they wouldn't fall over. And I found this one that looks like Gandalf's staff. It is crooked in all the best places, and it's got the
Nice.
knobs. And I brought it home, and people think I'm crazy, but it's like, no, this is Gandalf's stick. It is right there with my lightsaber downstairs, and that's where it will stay.
Right.
I think mine's on the front porch still. I could go get it if you want to see it.
I think we all need to bring our magical sticks to the next proto spiel.
You just show up as like a whole party, like, "Hey guys, we're all here." We all we're banging at the door with the sticks. 9 a.m. as soon as the proto
Let
spiel
me
starts.
in.
Let me in. Yeah.
Are you going to be coming to the one in Toronto, Eric?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
In
I'm
June?
actually. Yeah, I was talking to. I think I was talking to Joe Slack like 1 or 2 days ago. Him and I were messaging, but yeah, like I'm gonna do the whole weekend as per usual. So I'll be there all three days. So
All
How
right.
do you find that
So for
space, by the way? Oh, yeah.
the Legion? I was just going to say, for those of you who are wondering, the event is June 26th, 27th, and 28th. So you got a month and a half to get your prototypes ready because the three of us will probably be there and we'll be judgy. We'll be really judgy. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll have our sticks. We'll smack them against the table if we don't like how you've balanced your decks.
can you imagine? Somebody records just that part in their video when they're doing like a reel for TikTok, and there's a stick coming down on the table. It's like, I don't know if I want to go to this event.
Yeah, we might need to run it by Joe before that.
Yeah.
But how
Yeah.
have you been finding the proto spiels? Because this is going to be what, your third or fourth that you've now gone to?
If you're just counting the actual like Proto Spiel North and not like the event that's at Breakout Con,
Mhm.
Because I've been to other Proto Spiels, but in terms of the Proto Spiel North one, I think this is now my fourth. This is my fourth,
Oh, wow.
I think. Yeah.
And you're in Ohio?
No, I'm in Collingwood, Ontario.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you were in Ohio. It's like,
No.
what are you doing coming to Protospill North?
No. Yeah, just a little up north. That's all. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, Hafiz, but I just found out that they're doing a Protospiel sort of not in Ann Arbor, but like north of Detroit. Ann Arbor's just
Oh.
kind of like around Detroit. Yeah, so it's an hour. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes from my doorstep,
Oh, that's phenomenal.
which is like an hour closer than Ann Arbor. Really, kind of almost an hour and a half, 2 hours closer than Ann Arbor. So there's more happening, which is great in the Michigan area. For those of you who don't know geography, I'm actually further south than quite a bit of Michigan. So parts of Canada dip down into America, and I happen to live
Right.
in the part that dips down. So yeah, it's literally just like 2 hour drive. Like that's nothing. It's like I'm going to Sarnia and jumping across the blue water.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I plan on going to that once things change a little bit with the political scene. But yeah. So 4, count them 4 protospiels, and what is your favorite?
Sorry, I missed that last part. There was a little bit of slowdown there.
Oh yeah, so you froze for like a split second. I think you were asking what is your favorite part about going to the Protospiels?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, what is your favorite part about going to protospiels?
To be honest, my favorite part about going to Protospiel is the same thing that I like about sitting down and playing board games with just my own friends and family is just sitting in a room with people having like a hot drink of some kind and just having some laughs and like being engaged in something that is not tech or digital. That's my like generic answer to everything involving board games. Like that's the reason why I like it, right? If I gave you a more technical answer about the Protospiel, it is. I think my favorite thing about going there is that because you don't necessarily know everybody who's there, and there's complete strangers, you can almost trust and rely that people aren't really gonna like sugarcoat anything. They're gonna be honest with you because that's what you're there for. And it's not like your brother or your mother or your grandma who feels like, oh, good job, honey. I should tell you did a good job. They already think you've done a good job because you made the effort to go there and make something. So it's kind of unspoken. You did a good job. You made something, and that's great. But now, like, let me hit you with what I'm really thinking and feeling because it's like a safe space to do that. And honestly, you can't really get better or grow or design your game better if you don't get that kind of feedback.
I love it.
You know,
I really enjoy that viewpoint of these are the unsaid things that you should just assume that everybody's really proud of you for just being here.
yeah, for
Right.
sure.
And I think it's a great way of viewing it because taking and receiving feedback is so difficult for people who just aren't brought up in a culture of that. If you're not used to that, I'm from Gen X, so whatever, we got left at home alone, so we don't care about feedback at all. But I think some people, like, if you didn't grow up in like well, it's funny if you didn't actually grow up in the arts, because the arts are constantly adjudicated. So I was in music and symphony and orchestra and visual arts and theater for so long that yeah, we got cut from the play, or we had to go to Kiwanis Festival for those Canadians who did Kiwanis stuff, right? It's a thing, and you just constantly got adjudicated. That isn't the same uh, in some of the other aspects of life, and in a lot of the other aspects of life, when you're adjudicated, it's like the feedback that you get isn't telling you how to get better. The feedback you're getting is saying that you're not good enough to be part of this team or part of this thing. But usually in the creative arts, it's like, no, here's how you what you need to do to get better at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've forgotten how to do that as a culture, as a whole. We just take things way too personally. My students continuously complain
and
about being judged. It's like, I'm not judging you, I'm grading you. This is a totally different thing.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Very true.
Yeah, trying to push someone forwards. But I think that skill of feedback is also different. Like if you were to play with family and friends, if you play a game and it's maybe not where it needs to be, they'll just be like, oh yeah, it could be more fun. You can't really do anything with that. There's no magic fun that you can just cram into a game. Whereas if you go to a place with designers, they can say, it took the first third of the game to really get into the fun stuff. So can you trim that down? It's like, oh, okay, that is constructive. That is something that I can work with. And I feel like in the gaming space, something that's really interesting about it is everyone is so constructive with feedback rather than destructive with feedback. And so it just feels good to go to some of these events. Have you been finding that as well too? Like, have you been seeing growth for each of the four that you've been going to?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that just to double down on your point, that I would say 9.5%, or not 9.5 out of 10 people that you encounter, and I'm going to stay at that 0.5, will give you that constructive feedback that pushes you forward. And then every so often you'll get that little bit of feedback where maybe somebody is not being constructive, or they're just kind of being more on the negative side. And the thing is, when that shows up, it doesn't really last, because usually people will kind of call it out, or they're kind of say like, hey, listen, like, we need to go on something here, or let's get to the next constructive point. So like, it's again, it's almost like an unspoken rule where people are like, listen, like, if you're going to give something, like, give it so that there's like an uplift to it. Don't just give like an empty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It has to be actionable, right? There should be something that I can learn or gain from this thing. It can't be empty platitudes, but it also can't be just empty criticism like, I hated it. That doesn't help anybody. And Luke is exactly right. So Luke is an artist. His art is up on display right now on at a Dundas in Toronto, at Dundas Street, at an exhibition there. It's on until May 23rd. He's also a game designer, and so Luke knows about criticism. And he said that the difference is that art students have a well-developed culture of criticism, which is kind of what I was talking about, right? And that there are various methods and philosophies about critiquing art in certain ways. And I think because a lot of times, well, I mean, we've seen it. If you poll the number of people in, say, Board Game Design Laboratory Forum or something like that, BGDL's forum, there's going to be a whole lot of engineers, right? A lot of teachers, and then a lot of graphic designers and illustrators. And that's like the bulk of people for some weird reason. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of them. And out of all of those people, maybe the graphic designers got actual critique at some point in their life. Right. So it's an interesting thing that, yeah, a lot of people who are drawn to game design may not actually be the people who learned how to give and or take critique in a productive fashion. Oh, hey, we should ask Eric. Eric, what do you do outside of game design?
So outside of game design, I don't even want to say real life, because game design is real life, but we'll say during the day. I'm a fitness trainer for first responders, and I'm a first responder myself as well.
Cool.
So my entire life, like career wise, and interest and hobby wise, aside from board games, is pretty much everything revolves around health and fitness. So that's like early
That's how
morning
you were
hours.
able to lift Mjolnir.
I mean, the amount of like bicep curls that I had to do to pull that off is like, it's like 15 years in the making. So, but yeah, so early morning until, the late afternoon, like 3:30, 4 o'clock range is just health and fitness. And then I switch over to being a game designer. So
That's a nice switch too, right? Body,
is, yeah.
mind, body.
I was going to say
There's
there's definitely there's a physicality, and there's like an external kind of thing that I'm on my feet all day and I'm moving, and there's lots of, exertion. And then I go home and I cut cards, and I'm like, this is great. I'm just going to relax. just gonna cut cards.
Matt Paquette, who is one of the leading graphic designers in the industry, says graphic designers, all hacks. Matt, can you let us know in the chat, do you actually, well, when you went to get your graphic design degree diploma at whatever level, do you have like formal training in critique? I don't know, because I've never done that. So I'm wondering, that'd be interesting. Also, oh, maybe the storm. Like we had. Did you guys get tornado warnings yesterday?
Yeah.
Really?
We didn't hear, just massive downpour.
Okay, we had all of it. We had like sheets of rain, and we had one tornado about 45 minutes away, Mount Bridges,
Jeez.
moving towards us. So it was pretty freaky for a while. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, Luke,
Yeah,
we'll
so
see
if
you
I'm a bit
later.
laggy, I think it might be the weather around here.
Yeah. We'll see you later, Luke. Hopefully we'll get to see your stuff at the it's not a museum, what's the word, art gallery on Dundas. I'll go check it out this weekend if I'm able. And Luke, yeah, reach out to the Montreal game playtest community and have some time there. No, Matt does not have formal graphic design training. He is just self-taught at being awesome, I guess. He has a degree in awesomeness. Okay, cool. So let's talk about moving over from design to publication. Why for you publish yourself?
So the easy answer to that is, I think I'm just going to use the word pride. Like, I have a lot of pride in the things that I create, and there is that sense that you hear in the board game space a lot of like, oh, this is my baby, so like you don't really want anybody to mess with your baby. Um, but the caveat there is that it's not exclusive. Like, I didn't decide that I'm only going to be a self publisher and that's it. It really depends on what I'm creating, um, and it depends on what it means to me, right? So if I create a game that I think is great, it has a good theme, a good mechanic, or whatever, and it's something that I really enjoy, but I'm not like attached to in the emotional sense or the personal sense, then I might not have a problem at all pitching that to somebody and say, hey, this was a post-apocalyptic survival game, but you want to reskin it to, monkeys versus flamingos. Okay, like that's fine, right? Or you want to here's this martial arts game I've created, which this is awesome. It's a karate game and a judo game, but you want to reskin it as, hey, Eric, you have the chance to pitch this to somebody, and maybe it's going to be a Mortal Kombat game. Okay, well, mind blown. Let's do that. Like, it really depends on the project, right? So if it's something that's really close to me, then I'm going to self publish it so that I can sort of keep it keep it to exactly how I feel it needs to be. So a little bit of pride.
I think that's okay. I think having pride is important. But it does go with before the fall, as it was, as it's so sad.
Yep.
So, Eric, can you tell us about a few of the games you're working on right now? So let's start with Empowered Legends Begin.
Yeah.
What is that, and what's it all about?
Well, even just like hearing somebody else say it on the screen, like somebody else on a podcast saying the title of my game is like, I can't help but sort of get like amped up a little bit because,
Should I have said in a world where
I mean,
supervillains
if
battle
you want to
superheroes?
restart and go for it, like I can get even more.
Welcome to Empowered Legends Begin.
I feel like I'm going to need some voice actors anyway for this, for all the stuff that I put out for Kickstarter. So,
Oh, fun.
Well, Sen does have the fancy mic over there.
Fancy.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So Empowered is, I feel like Hafiz is going to totally relate to me on this one. This is a 4-year passion project of mine. This is like something that has just been at the forefront of my life for the past 4 years, which, Nothing But Net is pretty much on the same track as you, right?
You and I have been going parallel this whole time. It's been
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. But what it is it's it's a comic book themed game. It is comic book themed. I don't want to say it's superhero themed because it is superheroes, supervillains, vigilantes. This is a game that is essentially a comic book character builder. I don't want to say it's a tabletop RPG because it's not an RPG system, but the whole premise is that you are starting this game, you're sitting down at the table, and every single time you play, you are making a brand new character from scratch, from the beginning to the end of the hour and a half game that you play. So every time that you play the game, it's a completely different experience. You get to decide what this person is: a hero, a villain, a vigilante. And, as you can probably tell, comic books are like arguably like top 3, top 2, one of the biggest things in my life. Like, the majority of my life is inspiration is drawn from superheroes. So yeah, so that is Empowered. That is what it is. It's a comic book character builder. It's a tabletop board game. The board is actually a flip page comic book map. So you flip the pages as you go. And the most important thing is that it's a passion project because my co-designer on this was my father. Him and I started it together just at the beginning of COVID, maybe a little bit into COVID, about like 4-ish years ago, like I said. And so yeah, he's like the biggest inspiration behind it. He grew up loving Thor. That's his main thing. So yeah, him and I did a lot of this together, and everything that I do now with the game, I really keep it close to what him and I created. And he passed away about a year and a half ago. So this entire project and not stopping it and just going full throttle and keeping it all together is it's more for him now than it is for me. So that's the idea. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, so it's less about pride and it's more about legacy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Good. And in this game, what are the core mechanisms that we're going to be using to build our comic book characters?
Right. Yeah. So I'd say the core mechanic is you do have a player sheet, and essentially the game is like a dice roller. So there's a lot of dice rolling. It's all simplistic. It's only d6s, right? The combats, the little checks that you make to accomplish things, it's all done with d6s. Very low math. Some dice don't even have math. It's just symbols. So that makes it a little bit easier too. But essentially the mechanic is you are moving around the city and you are uncovering certain events or certain things that are taking place. As you progress through those, you are drawing cards and equipment that are then placed onto your character sheet. So as the game progresses, your character progresses, and you use combat in order to progress your character, or you use investigations. And that's a simple way of saying you can either be a physical-based character or an intelligence-based character. And you just sort of tackle these events and these bosses and these monumental moments around the city, and you use those to build up your character, right? So there's a lot that you place onto your character sheet. Like I said, it definitely has an RPG feeling to it because there's character building. That's what the whole game is about. But it's not like playing D&D, which is essentially the reason why I made this game, because for years I've noticed that there are tons of amazing comic book games out there, but the majority of them are either Marvel or DC licensed. So there's that. Secondly, most superhero games, if you notice, most comic book games these days are all card based. They're mostly cards. There's not a lot of like tabletop pieces unless they're like a Marvel or DC game. And then if it's not Marvel or DC, the games that you do come across, like what's an example of one? It's really great.
Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yes, thank you. Or like Freedom 5, like those games are amazing games, but they also have pre-created characters. And I know that almost every person that runs in my circle of board game playing, they love creating their own characters. So I'm like, we need a dungeon crawl-esque superhero game that lets you build whatever the heck you want from the get-go, but also something that you don't have to commit to for 3 hours twice a month as a campaign. You can just play it in like an hour. So,
have you ever played Dispatch?
Like the video game Dispatch, right?
Yeah.
No, I haven't played it myself, but I watched a Let's Play. So
okay, I thought it might interest you. First response and superheroes combined.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's solid, right? And it was like for a while, that's the only thing that was showing up on my Instagram feed was just clips from Dispatch.
Yeah, it's really not a huge to call it a game is it is a game, but it's more like a visual novel with some game elements, right?
Yeah.
So it's really quite interesting.
Absolutely,
I thought it was quite well done. You don't have to play it through it multiple times, but because that would be weird. But it is a really compelling story and interesting characters and all that kind of stuff. But I think you're right. A lot of people do want that because a lot of nerds have said, "Oh, if I had superpowers, what would I have?" Or
Right.
what if you mix this superhero with that superhero? What would you get? And a lot of the games that we do have, because they have to be balanced, right? That's an important thing about games that we play. It is either pre-generated characters, or characters that already exist in existing comics because of those types of limitations and feelings that we want. And a lot of people do like the idea of, what if I fought this character with that character? But combining them and making your own character and doing that kind of stuff is also really cool. So
Yeah.
that's
It's also
neat.
fixed. Like if you have to play a pre-made character, you're either good or you're bad. But it sounds like in your game, there's a little bit more flexibility. You could start off good, and maybe some incident happens, and then you take a turn and you become a vigilante, which sounds like it's that middle tier between good and bad, like it's straddling those like the line. But I could start off evil and maybe have a redemption arc as I'm playing the game, which is kind of interesting. It was really interesting. It's kind of cool that I can evolve in the game and not just in abilities, but also in purpose.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm actually kind of glad that you brought that up, because one of the best changes that I've made to my game in the last year is the alignment system, which is now called Reputation. And it's because of you. And I told you that, Hafiz. It was because of you the last time that you play tested it at the last Proto Spiel. And we were talking about how to do the tracking and how to, change your alignment as you go. And it ended up becoming so much smoother because of your feedback. So I got to give you props for that for sure.
There were several other people at said table giving
There,
valuable feedback. I'm going to
there
take credit
were.
on behalf of all of them.
Right. And the funny thing is I remember what those people also told me. I actually still have the picture of that day when you guys were playing. So I remember, and those people are people I still talk to. So same idea. They definitely helped me out with a few things as well. But you are right though. The idea is that you can start off as a vigilante or a hero or a villain, and because the game is actually, you know what? For some context, I feel like this will make sense. And anybody who's watching that likes video games and stuff, is I don't know if you guys have ever played it, but are you guys familiar with, or have you ever played the game DC Universe Online?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the original inspiration for this game was the millions of hours I spent playing DC Universe Online. And I was like, how could I get that open world sandbox feeling where I'm like, I created a character and then I'm just like controlling my character around the city. And I'm like, cool, here's this thing that I'm going to thwart. But then I ran over here to the amusement park and there was like a random construction vehicle there. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kick it because I want to. Like, how do I recreate that in like a board game? So it was the original inspiration for this game was, how can I make DC Universe Online a tabletop game where I'm just going around? So the context there, yeah, is you're starting off as a villain or a hero, and you might be flipping these event cards, always choosing to do the heroic thing. And then at some point in the game, you're looking at the other players or you're looking at the cards on the table and you're like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm not going to rescue cats from trees anymore. I'm just going to throw the cats into the trees because I want to. And now all of a sudden your reputation track starts changing. And now you start drawing different cards. And you started off as this heroic angel character, and now you have fire powers and you throw cats into trees. Like, it's just, that was your arc. Like, and the cool thing is that
decisions were made. Cats were thrown.
Cats were thrown, right? But I leave it a little bit vague too. Some of the mechanics. So as an example, there's like at one point in the game, you unlock your special trait, but the trait is just an icon with it's an icon with a word on it. So as an example of a trait, you might see something that sort of looks like a half person, half cyborg. And then the word on the trait, it just says robotic. Now, when you sit down to talk about your character at the end of the game, that can mean anything to you. You could tell the other players, well, my guy was an android, or maybe he just had a robotic right arm, or maybe he was a full robot. Like, it's open-ended. You can write down whatever you want at the end, right? It's just, it gives you a chance to use your imagination too without like strapping you into the rail.
That's very cool. Oh, we lost Sen for a second. He'll pop back on. What is your favorite thing about the game? Like, if you could just tell someone one thing.
Getting a little bit of lag here. So, okay, let's move on. And seeing as we're kind of actually almost talking about RPGs, I wanted to ask you about the Diamond D8 RPG system,
Right.
which is, sounds like an evolution in a way, because you only use d6s in Empowered,
Yeah.
so there's like plus 2 more sides, so it's like 2 times as good.
Yeah. That's it. That's the whole premise. I don't even need to explain it. But yeah, no, I'd love to chat about that, because that's sort of my next big project after Empowered. I am just going to respond to Hafiz's question, because he was asking one just as you sort of froze out there. He was saying,
Oh, okay.
what I think, like, what is my favorite part about the game that I've created? And honestly, simple answer, man, it's just I love creating characters. Like, I'm the type of guy who would boot up like Baldur's Gate back in the day and be like, cool, I've been playing for 3.5 hours. All I've done is build my party. I haven't even played yet. Like, I just love building characters. So like, I built this whole game just because I love building characters. So like, that's my favorite part, is just creating. The fights are fun, the investigations are fun, and doing the whole detective thing if you're like a vigilant, it's fun. But like, just look who I created at the end. This crazy character. Like, that's my favorite part. So I think that answers what you were saying, right?
Oh yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah, and then so the diamond system. This is a little bit further down the track of like, this is not a board game. This is an actual RPG system that I am making to, like, you know, I don't want to say rival, but, you know, along the same lines of many other indie people who have created their own RPG systems, their own tabletop RPGs. Because I am a big RPG guy too. You know, I have 3 campaigns that I'm a part of right now. I have a D&D campaign, I have a Pathfinder campaign, and I have a Marvel Multiverse RPG campaign that I'm a part of. So I do love my role playing. But yeah, this Diamond D8 system is it's more of a rules light. I wanted to make an RPG system that was a little bit more accessible to people, mostly in the sense of math, because not everybody loves crunchy math numbers, right? So I wanted to make it a little bit more accessible. You know, let's scale it down, use smaller dice. Everything is based off of categories instead of just crunching numbers. And actually, I can show you right here, because I'm such a board game designer, I can't help but feel like I need prototypes. So I busted out my big pad of sticker paper, and then I made I went to Dollarama and I bought a hardcover book, and then I printed out a thing so that it looks like I have my own core game manual already, even though it's all rough notes. But the creation has started. Yeah, and it's essentially just it's a rules light RPG system where everything that you do is low math. And in an attempt to take away more math, I have created D8s where the only thing that's on the D8 are colors. So everything in the game is categorized by color. And that sort of helps you discern, like, oh, if I'm rolling for something, or if I'm doing something role play or narrative sense, and I'm rolling, all I really need to do is match a color or roll the correct color. And it makes it a little bit easier than trying to add up, you know, a bunch of numbers and flip through character sheets to see if you have plus 12 or plus 97. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's in its infancy, but it's something that I'm actually testing out at the end of the month. I'd say the main thing that I like the most about what I'm creating here is that it doesn't have a theme. So it's just a system. So anybody who picks up the rule book once I write it could look at this and be like, cool, here's the system. I'm going to get people to play it, but I'm going to reskin it as Alien Ice Planet or 1800s Gothic London. And then
Or monkeys versus flamingos.
Or monkeys versus flamingos, which now the 3 of us have to collaborate and create a game on it, because we've brought it up 3 times now. So, but yeah, that's the next project. So
Cool. And what does the D8 actually do?
So you actually do something. It's so in the system you actually do a DC roll, and what that is as an example, if you are doing something physical in the game, physical is indicated by the color red. So if you're doing something physical, you would roll your D8, that is your red D8, and it just has the numbers 1 to 8. And that 1 to 8 is your actual die that you're rolling to see if you are passing the check. But when you roll the D8, you also roll the other D8 that only has colors on it. And what essentially happens is whether you fail or pass the check, there are going to be complications or resolutions based on the color that you've rolled. right? So it just makes it a little bit easier to discern when you're the person playing the game. So as an example, you know, I'm going to roll the d8 because I want to throw an orange at somebody's head. And I passed the roll and it landed on the colored die landed on blue. So I passed the roll and it landed on blue. Congratulations. You hit the guy with the orange, but also you made him very confused and now he's frustrated. Like that's the repercussion. He didn't just get hit with it. He is now mentally frustrated because you hit him with an orange. Like it's just something to help create more story, you know?
Mhm.
So like I said, it's in its infancy, but there are I think some good ideas there. So
Cool. And you said it's like agnostic, like thematically agnostic, so you could make any game pretty much play with this mechanical system.
yeah, exactly, because it's just a system. Even the actual like special moves and everything that you can do, they're all laid out in terms of description. But when it's time to play the game, you can rename it as anything that you want if you're the DM, right? So yeah, it's just a skeleton system meant to help create stories, right? Very narrative driven.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you brought up narrative a few times, and it sounds like that is the core experience you want to build out. You even mentioned earlier in the episode that when you're building out a game, you'd like to gear more towards the story side of things. Um, so when you do your design, do you feel that do you lean more towards a theme? Do you feel you lean more towards experience? It sounds like mechanic is something that comes secondary.
Yeah, honestly, Hafiz, I'd say you're pretty close on that. You know, when I really started to dive into like, you know, Gabe Barrett's Board Game Design Land podcast and all that stuff, and I really dove into that hard just before COVID started, and then all during COVID, I would hear those words all the time. You know, whether it's theme or player experience or mechanic, and I will say that usually 8 out of 10 times it's the theme that comes to me first, or I'll find something and be like, you know what, yeah, that weird looking asparagus right there, that needs to be a game, you know, like it'll be something that pops out to me first, and then I will usually start to go with the mechanic after that. It's not something that I choose to do, but I think you guys will probably relate to as board game designers that sometimes it's not, sometimes it's all at random, right? It's not like we aim to say, okay, I'm always going to look for the theme first and the mechanic. Sometimes it's, you know, I'm walking my dog and I tripped over a stone, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what if there was some weird mechanic about a game where you have to like flip a tile, but like if it lands on a stone, your character broke his ankle. Like it just, things just pop up sometimes, you know. But usually theme, yeah, is the first to come to me. Usually, I just like
Because
telling stories, guys. I like telling stories. That's what it
well,
is.
that's the reason I asked because you've mentioned stories a few times, so it almost feels like you lean more into experience and then you design from there. And I know Sen, you're very much a experience first designer as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more into feeling. Like, what's the feeling that I'm trying to elicit here? But yes, yeah, story has a big impact on that, of course.
I think that those two are very closely interchangeable. Like not interchangeable, but they're very closely linked because the theme of your game, I feel like will, or vice versa, the theme of your game will often dictate what someone's experience is going to be, or vice versa, right? Like if I create a game that's literally about supernatural ghosts that are just hunting you down in a basement, and that's the theme, like chances are the experience is going to be like it's probably going to make people tense if I do it properly. But then same vice versa, right? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think good games do that. I think sometimes though you might have stuff where it's like it's themed this way, but it didn't make me feel that way at all. And like that
Hmm.
that doesn't resonate or it doesn't feel right. Unless it's supposed to be like completely subversive, right? Where like a Scooby-Doo game shouldn't actually be scary. You know, it should be mysterious more than scary, and it should be silly at the end, right? Where you
Right.
have the tropes of unmasking somebody. It is about haunting and ghosts, but none of them are supposed to be real. So
Sure.
that's the
They they
the
would have
tropey
gotten
nature of it,
away with it if it wasn't for
right?
you kids.
I was
Yeah,
going to say it.
right. So yeah, I mean, yes, I do think that story can bring out the feelings, but I think you have to be intentional about the feelings, and then you have to use mechanics to reinforce those as well, because if the mechanics the don't provide that experience that gives you the feeling that you want for the story you want to tell, something's going to feel off, right? Which is what you get when you feel like, oh, they just slapped a theme on that mechanic. It could have been anything and it would play the same, right?
Right. Yeah.
Where there are those games where like it couldn't have been anything else but this. Um, like a lot of the very like Ameritrash games, let's call them that, just because that's what people call them. But a game like Star Wars Outlaws, I think, Outer Rim, sorry, Outer Rim. We were playing Outer Rim, and there was one card in it, and I can't remember what the card was, but it was like perfectly thematic, and it was played at the right time, and just gave you that feeling like it was from the movies. Like that's why it had to happen this way, and it was just it just fit, but it mechanically fit, thematically fit, brought out the exact experience that I think the designers wanted through the mechanisms, not just through telling me the thing, right? We actually had to embody doing the thing. Like, oh, take this card from this place or this ship from this planet, go to this other planet, and this will happen. And everybody at the table was like, just like in the movie, right? And everybody's like, yeah, that's amazing. So I think there's something to be said about you have to kind of intend it or just let it happen. It should happen naturally, but that sometimes people go against it when they mix and match things that don't actually fit. Like, is there a reason why your fishing game is dice rolling? And maybe there is, because dice are random, and sometimes it's random when you get fish. But maybe your fishing game should actually be like fishing for something inside a bag that feels actually like fishing. It is as random. It's a little more like the actual act of fishing. Whereas looking at a display of cards and picking the fish that you get from this doesn't necessarily feel like fishing, because you don't actually get to see the fish that you're getting before the fish bites, right? Unless maybe you have a fish finding tool, or you have that, knowledgeable tour guide who tells you all the bass are in that area, and the pike are in that area, the pickerel in that area. I'm speaking about like very northern water, cold water, freshwater fishes, because that's what I know. But if you're out on the ocean, that's where the marlins are or whatever. I have no idea what happens out on the ocean. Oceans are big and scary and lots of big fishes. So, anyways,
I think you just made a game just right then. I think you just
probably did. Probably
also,
did. But,
would you say, Sen, is that your main thing then? Would you say that you always start with the feel or the experience? Is that where you go to first?
Yes and no. So oftentimes, so in my career, my current state in my career, I am usually given something like, hey, well, I'll show you. Like, here is the license that you need to make a game for, right? Like, so let's say it's a license, like it's The Godfather. I just have this one here right now. This is a game that Jay and I made a long time ago. So it's like, it's The Godfather. Okay, so then we go, okay, so what's the experience like of being like a mafia don? What would that be like? What would you want to feel like while you're doing it? Oh, you want to feel like you're in control. You want to feel like you're carving up the city of New York after the Godfather dies, and all of the sub captains are carving it up, looking at for themselves. And so that's kind of what we think about. And if we don't know the license well, which is never really an issue, because usually the only reason why we get the license is because people know that we like the license. Said, oh, you really like anime, would you be interested in making this game? And it's like, yes, I love that anime. Or like, I don't know that anime very well, I could learn it. Or it's like, no, I don't like it at all, or I don't know it at all, pass it on. Anyways, my point being that oftentimes I'll poll audiences, I'll poll like my friends who also like these things, and say, hey, what is this, what feelings is this game bring out? Or if you were playing a game in that world, what would you want to be doing? Right? Because if you're not doing what you think the characters in that world should do, then are you even playing that game? Right? Like if you're playing a Marvel superheroes game, like let's say we're playing an Avengers game and the Hulk isn't the strongest character in the game, what's going on?
It's weird.
Yeah. Right? Or if well, let's say
Hulk
you're
needs
playing
Smash.
right? Hulk needs to smash. But Hulk should also be, when he's not the Hulk, when he's Bruce Banner, should be one of the smartest characters in the game too. It's just you have the duality. You can't be the two at the same time, depending on which version of the Hulk you are, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right? Are you Gray Hulk or Red Hulk or Green Hulk? I
Yeah.
don't know. But let's say classic Green Hulk, right? And so that kind of thing. Or like if like it has to make sense, not just in the numbers, but in the actions that you're taking and embodying and feeling. Like I feel like I'm that character when I'm playing that game. And I think that's a really important thing that a lot of people don't quite get all the time. But then sometimes they just kind of do it by nature because it fits that. So, for example, Hafiz's game, which was The Dice is Right, or whatever that game was called. Do you remember that? The dice rolling.
You named the game.
I
That
know,
was
I know.
that was from Maple Syrup. Yeah.
But that game just feels right. It's like it feels like you're doing that thing. Whether it was Hafiz's intention or it just came out that way. He's like, hey, here's some cool dice mechanics. Oh, it's like a game show. Let's do that with it. Or the theme came first and let's make a game show. What mechanics fit that? Or it could come from the feeling first. I want to feel like we're like gambling a lot. What can we do that does that? And what theme fits that? I think all three of those ways of looking at games are legitimate, as long as you make them all fit in the end. I just happen to focus on experience first, or say that I focus on. I do, but say experience first because I never want to forget it. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's always the first thing that comes to my mind. It means I prioritize that first, so that it aligns in the end. Because a lot of times, if you say I got some mechanics and I got some theme and that makes a game, but you don't consider experience, then you may think you finished your design, and it may work. It just will fall flat for a certain percentage of players, right?
Essentially, I think the player experience, what you're describing, doesn't matter what kind of game it is, that's pretty much the soul of every
Yeah,
game. Like
exactly.
that really is the soul of the game. People might say, oh, the soul of my game is, doing this one cool mechanic and then this happens. And it's like, but that's just something you're doing. You're not experiencing it. So yeah, you're totally right. Whether it's a party game or an RPG, there still has to be a soul. Like, what are you feeling while you're playing the game?
Yeah. And when people are talking about what the hook of the game is, I often try to steer them a little bit away from a mechanical or thematic hook and try to get them to at least think about it. Can you think about what the experiential hook would be? Like, what's the hands in the air moment that you can replicate through mechanisms reliably, so it's not just a random thing that happens once every 10 games. That's not cool. It should happen every time the game comes out. Some people should be feeling that often. Otherwise, why are we playing this game? But then that is thematically resonant with the game. So in Hafiz's game, let's talk about that again. You should feel like you're winning a game show. You should feel like, Bob Barker is calling you up to play the game. He picked your name. In the superhero villain arc game, you should feel like, oh, Uncle Ben died. Now I got bitten by a spider, and oh my gosh, now I have some responsibility. But you know what? An alien symbiote came down and I touched it, and now I'm this. Oh my gosh, like it should feel like the experience should be like you are reading a comic as the character and looking at your life unfold. And the Dice is Right game should feel like you are a person inside of a game show, and that you're winning or losing based on the rolls of your dice and however you're betting or whatever you're doing with those dice and placing them, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about that player experience, right? We talk a lot about UI and UX and graphic design, and we're talking about like how does the user interface with the game, and vice versa, how does the game's interface inform how the player plays. But then we should also talk about player experience and how does a player feel throughout all of these things, which is why I focus a lot on watching people play. I don't I do. It's not that I don't care about what you're doing, but I want to know how you feel after you do what you did. Like, what's the emotional value of the thing?
Right.
Because if it's not very, very high, then you'll probably choose to pick another game that is giving you the emotional feelings, right?
Right.
So, anyways,
Exactly.
that's where I go with all of that.
And that's pretty much the point of Empowered, my superhero game, because the whole point is I want people to feel like they're playing as their characters. So when I have somebody play test my game and like 3 days later they're like, "Oh man, I loved running around the city shooting plasma blasts out of my hand. I couldn't stop thinking about my character." So I just threw all that information into ChatGPT and here's a random picture of what my guy might look like. And I'm like, "Wow, you've been thinking about your character for the last 3 days? That's a good sign." Like that's what I want, you
Yeah,
know?
right? Yeah. And I think
So
that's why games like role playing games in general, or even Risk. There are still stories that circulate around my friend group about like epic Risk games that we played, and it's not about
yeah, totally.
Risk. Risk are silly mechanics, like they're super simple, but
Yeah.
it's more the stories that the game created about the play, right? There are several levels of story. Like a game can be a storytelling game where the game is to tell a story. The game could tell a story in the game, like the game has a narrative arc, but also there's the stories that we tell about the game that we played. And I think that's where the most memorable things happen, right? Which is why people will to this day tell me about their ninth level rogue that, shot
Yeah.
an arrow through the eye of the purple worm in the dungeon of despair on the level, yeah, whatever. Like I get all
Yeah.
these stories all the time. And it's lovely and wonderful, but it's because of the resonance that the game system promotes. The game promotes that you have these wildly swingy dice. Like 1 out of 20 chance is pretty low, and if you rolled a crit hit, you're going to remember that,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then it rewards you in some ways, not necessarily all the time mechanically, but sometimes it does. Like advantage in D&D is given out when you are doing good role playing. Your DM should give you, I like what you said. Here's an advantage, or
Hmm.
here's it's called inspiration. You
Yeah.
have a point of inspiration, right? And you can use it to roll advantage later. So there's all sorts of ways that a system should reward the play that we want to see and the experiences that we want you to have, right? Should funnel out of that, all those systems. Like if I was really to think about it from a behavioral analyst perspective, it would be like that kind of thing. Like what is the game telling you to do? What is the behavior you should have? What are the consequences that you should reap because of the decision that you make, whether or not you do that, good, bad, all these types of things. So there's lots of ways you could analyze this in terms of outcomes, but then there's some secret sauce and some magic that just happens in good game design, and some of it is done without thinking about it because it is human nature to play. But if we do analysis, we can actually codify it all. So,
Right.
anyways, lots of
Absolutely.
ways to think about it.
Yep. Totally agree.
All right. So it is 10 o'clock. How'd that happen?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
time just flew.
When you're talking about monkeys and flamingos, it's just time goes.
Right?
And you
Time
know
just
that's a good time.
flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do have to run because I promised my son I would play a game with him.
Nice.
So I have to go
That's
play a
most
game.
important.
It is. He is done university for at least the next couple of months, and so we will play games until the cows come home.
Nice.
If you want to talk to me and reach out, you can find me on Blue Sky, mostly at Senfeng Lim on Blue Sky. And Hafiz, where are you, good sir?
You can reach me on Instagram at Printer Inc. Games. And Eric, how about you?
Everything that I do is all the same name. It's all Eric Goes Gaming, and that's everywhere. That's IG, TikTok, YouTube. It's all the same. So anywhere you want to reach out, that's the name. That's what you're looking for.
You know what I thought you were doing? I thought you were like traveling around playing games in different cities. That'd be fun too.
Well, there's a little piece of that in the name because I do have a web series that I took a pause from, but now I've started up again. Where every weekend I do travel to some sort of antique store or antique roadshow looking for like old vintage games and stuff. So like I do travel a little bit. I do go somewhere to do some of my gaming. So it's a little bit wrapped up in that, I guess you could
There
say.
you go. Yeah, and you can reach Hafiz and I at Maple Syrup on all the things. Keep in touch. Hafiz, what's coming up in our near future? Like maybe even next week?
Yeah, so next week we're going to take a small break just because of UK Games Expo. It's been hard to find people, but we have an awesome list of guests coming up. We have the curator for the Games on exhibits that's looking at the history of games. That's at a local museum here in Toronto, the Aga Khan Museum. We have the one of the founders of Urban Capers, which is a big murder mystery scavenger hunt company. We have Matthew from Envy Born Games. His game is currently crowdfunding right now, which is Jason and the
Jason.
Argonauts. Yes, that's it. And then we also have Avery. Avery is going to be coming on. They created the Deep Forest and then actually several different RPG-esque games.
The
That
Quiet Year is
Quiet Year, that was it.
probably their best known RPG.
And then
Yes.
yeah, that one is great. And then also Grant from Grant's Game Rex is going to be joining us. So we have a really fun lineup coming up over the next few weeks.
Excellent, excellent. If you want to help keep the lights on, you can go to patreon.com/maple syrup and, yeah, join up if you want. I don't think anybody's joined in years, but it's okay if you did. Hey, Eric, I know we probably forgot to tell you, but you owe us some final advice. No, we did tell you. I remember.
Right.
We're collecting.
My final advice for board games, for life, whatever it is just go and do the thing. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. Doesn't matter if nobody likes it. Just whatever it is, whatever idea you have, whatever dream you have, just go and do the thing so that you can say that you did it. Because it's cliche, but life is really short. So you got to find out what's actually in it. So just go do the thing. And then once you've done it, you go do something else. And then you don't look back. You just go do it. That's
Yeah,
it.
there you go. Awesome.
So
Excellent. And if you want to know a really good kettlebell complex or something, you can also find Eric at any convention and ask him, how do I get swole, bro?
that's it. That's it. I did want to
All
say
right.
a huge
Yes.
shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for this. I'm going to remember this forever. This is my first guest appearance on anything ever for board gaming. So this is a monumental moment. I'm going to write in my journal. I'm going to put it on the wall in between these guys here.
Yes.
So I'm really honored and humbled. So thank you so much. And Hafiz, thanks for asking me to be on. It's just, this is awesome, guys. Really, really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks for coming. We loved having you.
Awesome.
Great having you here.
All right. Luke, Matt, Deadpan, everybody who's out there in Maple Syrup Land, we'll see you guys soon. We'll talk to you in a bit. See ya. Bye.
Cheers. See you later, everyone.
And we are out. Excellent.